4. Paleontology.
All right, let's get down to living fossils. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Make sure you take notes because there's always a question about this on the primary exam. Where was I? Oh yes, living fossils. Well, certainly not all species on Earth have followed the usual pattern whereby species last about 2 to 3 million years before they are replaced. This number varies between different phyla, but that's an average figure. Evolution does its work, and older species often die out because of climate changes and natural catastrophes. Species that adapt well survive in the new conditions, and the cycle continues. Some hardy species, though, have weathered the ages and remain with us today. It's truly amazing to think that these plants and animals have adapted to so many changes. In some cases, perhaps, there has been stability in their environment too. Nonetheless, these survivors are a scientific wonder because of their success. First of all, it's important to realize that we have what are deemed living fossils, but this isn't precisely the same as a Lazarus taxon. I'll explain that term soon. For now, let's stick with living fossils. A living fossil is a species of plant or animal that has existed since far back in the geological record and has never disappeared. These species haven't changed their form at all over an extensive period of time. What I mean is that they have lasted much longer than the average of 2 to 3 million years that I mentioned a few minutes ago. A great example of this is the tuatara lizard in New Zealand. This wonderful reptile has been around longer than the dinosaur, and we can find consistent evidence of its existence as far back as 200 million years ago. Tuataras are a single living species with no close living relatives, but which are the survivors of a large and widespread group in the fossil record. Another well-known example of this is the ginkgo tree. Ginkgo trees used to be part of a large group of plants, but, like tuataras, they're now one of a kind. Perhaps this has contributed to humanity's fascination with them, imbuing them with supposed healing properties. Anyway, that's beside the point, I suppose. The key thing is that, as with all true living fossils, at no point have ginkgo trees disappeared from the fossil record. A Lazarus taxon, or Lazarus species, on the other hand, has done just that. Having disappeared from the fossil record for a long stretch, a living specimen is suddenly found. This is the case with the famous coelacanth. That's a tricky one to spell, so I'll write it on the board. Coelacanth, C-O-E-L-A-C-A-N-T-H. This fish was formerly thought to be long extinct. In fact, scientists can find no evidence of the coelacanth in the past 80 million years of the fossil record. Against all expectations, a living one was caught by fishermen near South Africa in 1938. Like the biblical character Lazarus, the species seemed to miraculously come back to life after everyone thought it was dead. It's a mystery why scientists can't fill in that missing fossil information. Of course, species do not just appear out of thin air, so all living Lazarus species are nonetheless considered living fossils. They're merely in a special category. Should a more recent example of a coelacanth fossil be found, the missing link would be filled, and coelacanths would cease to be a Lazarus taxon. They would be reclassified as just a regular living fossil. Okay, it's time to wrap this up, I'm afraid. In summary, a living fossil is a species that appeared long ago in the fossil record, and it is still around in the same form. It has survived against the odds, whereas most of its relatives have died out. Lazarus taxons share these characteristics, but they form a special class of living fossils because there is a gap in their fossil history. Because of this gap, scientists formerly thought these species had become extinct. Their sudden discovery on Earth today places them in the Lazarus category. Until that fossil record gap is filled, they remain in that special category. I see we're almost out of time. Do any of you have questions?
Number 1. What is the talk mainly about? Number 2. How does the professor emphasize his point about the unexpected reappearance of Lazarus Texans? Number 3. According to the professor, how long, on average, do most species last? Number 4. What do the tuatara and the ginkgo tree have in common? Number 5. What is the professor's attitude toward animals that are called living fossils? Number 6. Why does the professor say this?
Anyway, that's beside the point, I suppose.